Hello, and thank you for being here this week. I love you all. God bless, and welcome. So, I think that my life is okay. It's not like a failure, but it's not a real success either. To some extent, I've escaped the rat race, but externally it's kind of a mess. I mean, everything is half finished. It's similar to this channel. This is a very unpolished channel. Usually I kind of go off the cuff, and then some part of me gets back to my focus. I think our focus is the most important thing. Whatever that is, whatever you want or seek, the key is to maintain your focus. But people and circumstances will jerk you around. I've said it before, but pay attention. And I'd be cautious of people that demand your attention. People should respect your time. And perhaps that is one success in my life. It wasn't always. I grew up a people pleaser, and even in my professional work career, perhaps was too nice until a certain point. So today I wanted to talk about this research. It starts out like many other researchers in the field of history, looking at this and that and the stories. What is different between my take and others in this community is we think all of this, every single shred of ruins in various conditions, are from a past civilization that was displaced as little as 200 years ago. I mean, there's our people, and we see photographic evidence of how they lived around the same time as the camera is invented, we are told. And people all over the world are occupying beautiful cities, brick, with all the most wondrous architectural styles present, and yet it would take another 100 years for us to acquire the technology to replicate not only the buildings, but the canals, infrastructure, and what I wanted to talk about today being dams. In a past video, I titled the idea the elephant in the room. We've been looking at all aspects of a people, again, their buildings, travel networks, and as advanced as this old world seems to have been, what we can see is they had it all. Trains, airships, submarines, electric vehicles and trolleys, ethereal energy gathered through antennas, geothermal harnessing, and dams, giant block dams, as we recently discovered at the Roosevelt Dam in Arizona. And even if I didn't want to research this, it seems like I just found myself in it. I mean, this was an accident. I kept driving by this spot, and many of you in comments said this looks like a dam. And I didn't show it, but it appears as if this whole thing may have been a block dam. I have some photos I'll try to inject of the spot in between here where the road passes through. It's completely blasted out and charred, and this turned out to be a lot more interesting than I thought it was. Especially this part, this shelf that seems to be made of the same material that the rest of the mountain is, but yet completely seems artificial and not natural, following this same pattern. And then of course there were these coke ovens that I recently checked out, and in that video I discussed how these may have been a type of waste management, like a septic system, holes in the top, but that doesn't explain a lot of things. I suppose the methane could create a lot of heat and gases, and some of them may have blown out. I even read that in a few comments. That is a possibility. And in the past, we've also discussed how such configurations could be batteries. And there's a lot of different ways that these could serve as power or batteries. This area is in a hot springs zone. In fact, that's one of the big draws here, skiing and hot springing. And in fact, the big famous hotel in town, the big brick Old Worlder, is a old hot springs resort. And if you had the ability to build like this, and all the old world structures we see everywhere, you might have the ability to harness the geothermal activity, regardless of what it is. I don't necessarily believe it's something bubbling out of the earth, as we're told. I think it may be the result of one of the many cataclysms we see evidence of throughout this realm. Hot springs still bubbling today, again, because this didn't happen so long ago. All these events that we explore the ruins of every week. There's also the idea of radium. Radium was used in the past, and a lot of these hot springs have a high radium or radon content, and that's part of its healing benefits. Now they have us so scared of the material. And what made me think about all this was my last visit to Midway, Utah, when I saw these mounds out here, and the ones across the street were hot springs. They had bubbling pools of hot water in them. And of course we would be told these are natural, some gas bubble from millions of years ago. But I'm just not down with the gas bubbles, especially what this site had to reveal. Most importantly being this part. This bubble, the gas bubble, is connected to a building, to a cooked out, once well built, very plumb, very square building, now fused into a blob mostly, and again across the street, intermingled throughout a miniature golf course. We have a whole village worth of these holes, geothermal holes, one after another, all different shapes and sizes. And if I would have made this video a week ago, I think it would have come together a little better. But it was the hole. It was the hole in the top of the lime kilns everywhere. The ones in Utah, the ones in Colorado I recently visited. Then the holes in Midway, the hot springy holes with buildings fused into them. And I thought, what round building with a hole in the top and a square jutting out of the side have I seen before? And that brings me to this baby, the Pantheon. I always confuse the Pantheon and Parthenon. But anyway, this baby has a big dome. In fact, the biggest concrete dome in the world, and the oldest. Biggest and oldest. Without any steel reinforcement, we're told. But here we go. And when you walk in, the doors made for a giant, as we can see here. We walk in and have this spectacle of a dome or firmament. And here the hole is 27 feet across. Again, the oldest and largest concrete dome built by the Romans. And I don't believe in the Romans as we know them. So here we go. What is this thing? I mean, really? I always wondered about the rain, and this video showed what's going on in here on a rainy day. And it's so huge that it does make a little mess, but just in this little spot here. And you can see two little drain holes. I guess there's a few more over here, as if it was designed with drainage in mind. Now, anybody that could build a structure like this could cover the hole. I mean, it tells me the hole has another purpose. Either something's meant to go through it, some kind of tech going both out and back down into the ground. I also saw this channel go into an abandoned hot springs Soviet resort, and what we could see are a bunch of these domed structures with holes in the top. And these ones were really interesting because they had these Magnetron type devices down here. We would be told these are little soaking tubs. Here's a better look today. But I don't think so. This is a Magnetron type device. This looks like copper in the center here. We see some tarnishing on what seems to be a metal. I could be wrong. But I thought it was a great clue. Here again, looking at it from the top. So not too dissimilar from what I was showing in Midway. But this is in great condition, at least on the inside, giving us an idea that this is more of type of machine or perhaps power generation, using a variety of different modes. But again, we have this geothermal activity. This was said to be a healing resort, but that's always the BS that they give us. That's the history. It was a healing resort, and then it closed down, and now they're demolishing, or everything has become abandoned, as is the case here, a little of both. Again, these lime kilns sharing this similar feature. Hole on the top, geothermal area. And this city, this abandoned city, is called Skaltubo in Georgia. It was said that Joseph Stalin visited one of these resorts, had his own private bath, and died shortly after, unrelated to the bath. And here's a look at that city in its heyday. I mean, looking World's Ferry. And here's a look at some of the ruins today. So we see the old, what in America would be coined as a kind of Richardsonian blockwork. Very Romanesque up here, very Goth. Here again, just ruins of a supposed hot springs. And going back to the hole in the top is something missing. Like I said, something may have gone up and out to complete these machines. Another good example is French Lick, Indiana. We have a giant dome with some device sticking out of it, pointing down like some wand that may have emitted some kind of energy. And I think to wrap up part one, I'm gonna show you some devices that Martin shared. We can see down here his alias, Marticus von Liedtke. And these are devices, most of these in India. In India, everything is always nice and preserved in India, giving us a good idea of what by the time we see in our more developed countries has been stripped down, demolished, or bastardized. Here's another one of these pieces of tech pointing down. This one is awesome. Again, reminding me of the device in Indiana. Here's another one, really intricate. We would be told that this was carved out of stone. Of course, that's ridiculous. And they actually seem like they may have been made of metal. I think sometimes when we see such complexities, we may not even be dealing with a stone or geopolymer, but maybe something else that has been rendered into what seems like... This one is really amazing. Here we have one protruding down, surrounded by what looks like a dozen smaller ones. And one more of Martin's shares. Here we see some pipe organs, and each pipe organ leading up to a little tower, showing that the towers aren't just towers. All of this having a purpose, and this is really extravagant to have 3 different examples here. But now I think I'm going to take you to this town in Georgia. We're going to look at the abandoned ruins of this city for part 2. Okay, part 2. This video is not the video I thought it was going to be. Fortunately, I have too much I want to talk about, just scattered all over the place. I feel like I want to drop some philosophy. I've come to realize, through a lot of great teachers, presently and in the past, that everything comes down to this consciousness. And you are not you. You are the consciousness. You tell yourself a story about your life, and everybody does. Well, the consciousness is eternal. You go through your life, and the consciousness is always there, always present. And the consciousness, the same consciousness that flows through every human and animal and tree, is really in charge here. We're kind of along for the ride. We can make decisions, but they're pretty superficial. They're not even the important things. Those things are governed by the consciousness. For example, your beating heart and your breath and the pumping of your blood, the digesting of your food, the creation or the building of a creature in the womb. All super intelligent consciousness that we could never duplicate. And if we were responsible for these things, we would most definitely fail. And understanding this, really understanding it, has kind of liberated me, helped me surrender, and perhaps enjoy the ride. So anyway, back to Russia, or Georgia. Skaltubo. Forgive me. This channel that went out here is called the Yes Theory, and I appreciate all these channels. I feel like our community is the only ones that really understand what's going on here, and perhaps the controllers. Of course, the controllers. But anyway, here we go. Skaltubo. Sounds like scalding tube of hot water. Is a spa resort in central Georgia. It is known for its radon carbonate mineral springs. Temperature is at a constant 91 to 95 Fahrenheit or 33 to 35 Celsius. So a town like this has free power, essentially. I don't care how it happened, whether it was the result of cataclysm or gas bubbles, whatever. There's hot water here, and with hot water you can create steam, you could power machinery. And here they tell us of the very specific conditions that these waters would help heal: skin diseases, skeletal, nervous system, pulmonary diseases. They say this place was popular in the Soviet era, attracting 125,000 visitors per year, and again visited by this mustached man shortly before his death. Today, the spa receives 700 visitors a year. So really a sharp decline. How interesting that it was so prosperous in the Soviet era, 125,000 visitors a year. But that is our history. Everything going backwards, not shocking to us. And they tell us the architecture has an ethnic decor with Gothic and Roman features. And they tell us this is the hotel in the 50s, and then suddenly in 1957, full color, everything looks the same, in ruins. Really reminding me of the city of Turkmenistan, Ashgabat, and Astana, and all those abandoned, now revitalized cities in Tartar country. Well, we have the same thing going on here, and I'll show you that now. So here we go. Here is the nation of Georgia to the east of the Black Sea, and not too far away again from Turkmenistan over here, Ashgabat, just a beautiful city. And we have something similar going on here in Georgia. So let me zoom into this town, Skaltubo, and here we go. So this right away reminded me of what in America would probably have become a World's Fair. We have about 200 buildings, giant buildings, scattered all over here. And now the city is pretty much abandoned, overgrown, in ruins, absolutely prime. River, what seems like old railways running through it. Just a city center. Here would have been the hub, like a train station, but now everything left to rot. And a lot of clues here. Again, what the World's Fairs may have looked like. And I was very excited actually that they allow us to drop the man in certain places. So here, for example, we drop the man, we see a very old world building back here. And here I've placed a couple pins, and these are just amazing. This is supposed to have been the one that Stalin visited. Here's a look at one. All of these are just mind-blowing in every way. Here we see the sanatorium. Let's click on this. So here we see the inside. Here another sanatorium. Look at this thing. Just unbelievable. In ruins, completely decrepit, and yet having portholes everywhere, infrastructure. Here we see bathhouse number 8, and I put a pin here. I mean, look at all of this. Again, a structure with a hole in it, like we started out the video with. And what is this? Let's click on it. Here we go. Again, this Magnetron. And really, I mean, they want to tell us that this is for bathing. And the springs are radioactive. And I'm kind of torn. I mean, I do also see the benefits of the soaking and the healing properties that would come from this high mineral content, perhaps even the radon. But I also see the machine. It's undeniable. I mean, I think it's pretty stupid to build healing pools like this, where everyone's just going to face each other. So this is bathhouse number 8. So there's 7 more of these. Here's a sanatorium. Okay, look at the beauty here. So do these really look like hot springs buildings? They look like a lot more. And they're massive. I mean, you can see normal houses all around here. And then look at these buildings. This one they don't want us to see. Let me click on this. So here we can see the inside. Just all concrete and columns and completely gutted. Gutted and, in my opinion, sitting like this for at least 200 years. Again, look at this thing. This massive building. They're everywhere. How many sanatoriums do you need? Here's another one. Trees growing out of the side of it. Here's another one with a hole in the top of the roof. And there's so much more to this. I mean, I could show you the 200 buildings that could have been a World's Fair, that could be a golf course today when they decide to cover it up. But I wanted to show you this park down here. So here we go. This is what reminded me of Turkmenistan. We see this park with these very intricate designs, and the roads themselves are very intricate. Much is buried all around the park. More sanatoriums here. Here we go. Absolute ruins. Looks like it's been cooked. And another sanatorium that they're not letting us see. But these two appear to have been connected with another building in the center here. But back to this park. A lot of interesting things going on with this park. I mean, this is an abandoned city. Everything run down. And yet we see this very complex layout. So, abandoned Georgia. Let me show you the city hall. Here we go. City Beautiful Hall. It's interesting how some parts are very well preserved, but this area is just a gold mine, I think, for understanding the old world, especially when we see these Magnetron type machines that they're calling bathhouses looking like this. Domes and holes in the top. So I think that's it. Very random, chaotic video. I hope I made some kind of sense. And if I didn't, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for being here. I love you all. God bless. And I'll see you next week.